Welcome to Wawasan Wire. Today, we're talking about Anwar's anti-corruption mandate, the insistence on no protections. In a political climate where, let's be honest, trust is always a bit fragile, the fight against corruption feels, well, it feels more urgent than ever.
That's existential, really.
Right. And recently, Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim came out with this incredibly firm directive on it. And this wasn't just, the usual political speech. It felt like a direct order to dismantle the whole system.
Yeah, that's the perfect way to put it. He set a ton of absolute zero tolerance, and the setting was key. He said this directly to the leadership of the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission.
During the International Anti-Corruption Day commemoration, no less.
Exactly. He was making it crystal clear that the old way of doing things is over. Integrity has to start now, and there are, no exceptions, no sacred cows.
Okay, let's really get into that mandate, because this is where the rubber meets the road, politically speaking. He looked right at the Chief Commissioner, Tan Sri Azam Baki, and basically made a personal vow.
He did. He said there will be absolutely no refuge, no shield, no protection for anyone caught up in corruption.
And the breadth of that promise is what's so striking. It wasn't just a general statement. He specified it applies regardless of department, political party.
Or even people working in the Prime Minister's own office. And that is the litmus test, isn't it?
It has to be.
When a leader says, I won't protect anyone, that sends a tremor through the entire system. The instruction is basically, if you find a problem, you investigate it. Action has to follow, period.
You really have to pause and think about the weight of that, especially in our context. We've seen a political culture where loyalty can sometimes blur the lines with legal accountability.
To put it mildly.
Yeah, so for a prime minister to say, I won't protect my allies, my friends, even my own staff, that's not just policy. That's a direct challenge to the way things have been done for a very long time.
It's all about institutional credibility.
Yeah.
I mean, if you expect the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission to go after powerful people, its own integrity has to be beyond question.
It has to be bulletproof.
Absolutely. The Prime Minister's argument is that you can't build a clean culture unless the enforcers are willing to look at the people closest to power. It's not just about catching bad guys. It's about making governance itself the nation's defense mechanism.
Because if the system protects its own, it's already broken.
Fundamentally broken. If that message of integrity stops at the door of the Prime Minister's office, the whole thing is undermined from the start.
So that sets the stage for zero tolerance. But Anwar also talked about something deeper, didn't he? He called it a sickness in society.
Yes, and this is a really crucial point. He identified this breakdown in public values, this habit that some circles have of admiring and protecting powerful people, even when it's clear they're doing something wrong.
And the language he used was pretty shocking. He said that sometimes people involved in bribery are seen as champions.
A fighter, hero.
Yeah. Applying that to someone who steals public money, it shows you just how twisted the value system has become. It's like celebrating someone for being clever enough to get away with it.
When corruption is seen as a shortcut to power, or just a smart business move, you're not just fighting a legal battle, you're fighting a cultural one. But, okay, moving from the problem to the solution. This strong mandate is actually starting to show real results.
We need to see that. What does that success actually look like on the ground?
It looks like agencies finally working together. We're seeing the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission in, seamless collaboration with the Inland Revenue Board of Malaysia.
Oh, tax authority.
Right, and the Royal Malaysian Customs Department, the Royal Malaysia Police, these huge, complex financial crimes like smuggling, they can't be untangled by one agency alone. You need a unified front to follow the money.
And that must be making a massive difference, especially with these big transnational syndicates. Are there any hard numbers on the financial impact?
There are. And they're pretty staggering. Over just the last 2 years, these coordinated efforts have recovered 1.55 billion ringgit.
Wow. 1.5 billion.
Yes, 1.55 billion ringgit in losses that were caused by corruption and smuggling. This isn't just a projection of what was lost. This is money they've actually gotten back.
You have to let that sink in. That's money for schools, hospitals, roads, money that was just siphoned off into private pockets. Getting that back is a direct win for the public.
It totally validates the focus on these massive, large-scale operations. We're hearing about them going after huge container smuggling groups, breaking down these transnational networks. This isn't small-time stuff anymore.
The Prime Minister called them massive actions that shake the criminal network.
And that's exactly what's needed, a deep, surgical cleanup.
Okay, so that aggressive enforcement is clearly vital. But here's the pivot, and I think it's a critical one. The Prime Minister himself added a very important condition to all of this.
The rule of law.
Exactly. He said it can't just be about being tough, it has to be legally sound.
And that is maybe the most important part of this for any kind of long-term success. If this anti-corruption drive starts being seen as, just taking procedural shortcuts, or even worse, as targeting political enemies,
The whole thing loses its legitimacy.
instantly, the public trust that they've worked so hard to build back up would just evaporate.
So it's not just who you catch, but how you catch them. What specific legal principles did he emphasize?
It was about procedural discipline. Clear, legally sound reasons for any arrests, complete transparency in the process, and, crucially, being responsive to public concerns about the investigations. Due process isn't some inconvenience, it's the bedrock of the whole thing.
Which brings us right back to that internal test we talked about earlier. The enforcers themselves have to be under the microscope.
Precisely. He was very explicit about this. If enforcement officers make mistakes, from small errors to actual abuses of power, they have to face action, disciplinary or legal.
It's that self-correction mechanism.
That's the key. The willingness to act against your own people when they step out of line. Without that, the system is flawed and it becomes vulnerable.
And what they're up against is, it's not trivial. The Prime Minister warned about the sheer financial power of these corrupt groups.
It's a huge threat. These aren't just a few rogue individuals. They're well-funded syndicates that are actively trying to infiltrate everything. The civil service, the judiciary.
Even social media, to try and shape public opinion.
Yes. To obstruct investigations or just cast doubt on the credibility of the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission. When your opponent has that kind of money and influence, your own institutional integrity is your only real shield.
It becomes a battle for the soul of the country's institutions. Okay, let's shift focus to the agency right in the middle of all this. What was the response from the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission's Chief Commissioner, Tan Sri Azam Baki?
Well, he started by reiterating their core mission, to be fearless and impartial. That's their baseline. But he also gave some really interesting insights into what he sees as the big drivers of change right now.
Okay, he mentioned the youth, for one.
He did. He sees the younger generation as a huge force for reform. He suggests they just have higher expectations for transparency and accountability. Their scrutiny is forcing a change because politicians and civil servants know they're being watched more closely than ever.
That's a fascinating point. So accountability isn't just coming from the top down, but also from the bottom up, from citizens demanding more.
Exactly. When you have a generation that's highly engaged and watching every move, it can force change much faster than internal government wheels can sometimes turn.
What was the other major pressure he mentioned?
The global stage. Malaysia's always under observation, right?
Yeah.
Especially through things like the Corruption Perceptions Index. And he was very frank that even though reforms are happening, it takes a long, long time to shift those international perceptions. It's a marathon.
So they're fighting a war on two fronts, cleaning up at home while also trying to repair the country's reputation abroad. What's their strategy for that?
It's a dual focus. On one side, you have the aggressive enforcement we've been talking about. On the other, a big push for prevention and education, the whole Keeping Malaysia Clean campaign.
So it's not just about punishment.
Right. The goal is to build a common value system across the country so that integrity becomes the norm, not the exception. It has to be a culture shift, not just a legal one.
And what did he say about those who just refuse to change?
He was very blunt. He said that while they want everyone to choose the clean path, there will always be those who are too resistant or too entrenched. And his final line was, if certain parties refuse to walk towards cleanliness, we must show how to clean.
That's a powerful statement of intent.
It's an aggressive one. It signals that they will use the full force of the law if voluntary compliance doesn't work.
That really sums it all up perfectly. What we've discussed today shows just how high the stakes are. You've got this aggressive zero-tolerance drive, backed by that incredible 1.55 billion ringgit recovery, but it's coupled with this absolute need to stick to the rule of law and maintain internal integrity.
The complexity is right there. It's not just about catching a few big fish. It's about fixing the whole ecosystem, the broken values, the patronage that let them get so big in the first place. The real test is whether this mandate gets enforced equally against allies and opponents alike over the long term.
Right. I suppose the ultimate sign of success won't be the number of arrests. It'll be a slow, steady rise in public trust, and maybe one day the idea of calling a corrupt person a champion will just seem absurd. That's the long game. Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this.